The vibration of my phone cuts through the chaos of the ER like a scalpel. 3 trauma cases in the last hour, and now it buzzes against my hip with an urgency that makes my stomach clench. No one calls during my shift unless something's wrong. I duck into the supply closet, tearing off my blood-spattered gloves. The caller ID flashes Lily's name, and my heart hammers against my ribs. "Honey? What's wrong?" Her voice comes through, choked with sobs. "Mom, my key doesn't work anymore." "What do you mean it doesn't work?" I press the phone closer, straining to hear her over the hospital announcements. I put it in, and it won't turn. She gasps. "I'm outside, it's raining really hard, and Oscar won't stop crying in his carrier." I close my eyes, picturing it, my 12-year-old daughter standing on the porch, backpack soaked, clutching the cat carrier as rain pours down around her. "Where's Grandma? Where's Tessa?" Nobody's answering the door. The lights are on, but nobody comes when I knock. Cold dread floods through me. "I'll be right there, honey." Go to the side porch where there's more cover. I'm leaving now. I burst out of the supply closet, nearly colliding with Dr. Martinez. The ER is a battlefield of stretchers, monitors, and the relentless beeping of vitals. "Gianna, we need you in Bay 3, the GSW from the pile-up." My daughter's locked out of the house. The words taste like panic. "I have to go," he blinks. "We're swamped. Can someone else get her?" There is no one else. The truth of it hits me like a blow. There never has been. I push past him to the nurse's station where Supervisor Wheeler is updating charts. Her eyes narrow as I approach. "Nancy, I need to leave." "A family emergency," she sighs. "Gianna, we're short 3 nurses already." "Can it wait until—" "My father just died, Nancy." The words land between us with the weight of the earth. "Go," she says quietly. Rain sheets across the windshield by the time I pull into the driveway. Through the wipers, I spot Lily's small figure huddled under the side porch. Her hair is plastered to her head, uniform soaked through, the cat carrier at her feet echoing with miserable meows. I leave the car running and sprint through the downpour, water soaking through my scrubs in seconds. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Lily collapses against me, shaking. "Why doesn't my key work?" "I don't know, honey." I stroke her wet hair, my mind racing. "Let me try mine." We move to the front door. As I reach for the handle, I see the curtain shift slightly in the living room window. Someone's home. My key slides in but won't turn, just as Lily said. I pound on the door. "Hello? Marjorie? Tessa?" "Open up!" The door swings open. I find myself face to face with my mother. Marjorie stands in the entryway, wine glass in hand, her silver hair perfectly coiffed. My half-sister Tessa leans against the wall, swirling her own glass of red wine. "Well," Marjorie takes a slow sip, her eyes traveling over our drenched figures. "You got here faster than I expected. What's going on?" I ask, trying to usher Lily inside. "Why aren't our keys working?" Marjorie blocks the doorway with surprising firmness for a 65-year-old woman. "We've decided you and Lily don't live here anymore." The words don't make sense at first. Like they're in a language I don't speak. "What are you talking about?" "This is our home. Not anymore." Tessa steps forward, smirking. She points toward the street. "Your things are on the curb." What's left of them, anyway? The rain's been pretty brutal today. I follow her gesture and see cardboard boxes disintegrating in the downpour, clothes and books spilling onto the sodden lawn. My medical textbooks, Lily's school projects, our lives dissolving in the rain. Oscar lets out a pitiful meow from his carrier, his cries cutting through the sound of rainfall. Something cold and hard settles in my chest. I look at Marjorie, the woman who gave birth to me, who I moved back home to help when Dad got sick, and see nothing familiar in her eyes. Understood. My voice comes out quiet, but steady. Tessa's eyebrows rise, like she's disappointed I'm not screaming. 2 years ago, I'd given up my downtown apartment, paused a promotion track at the hospital, and moved back to care for my terminally ill father. Dr. Peter Reynolds had been respected by everyone, except, apparently, his own wife. I'd fallen into the familiar pattern, stepping in when others stepped back. Working 14-hour hospital shifts, then coming home to manage medications, appointments, and the household, while Marjorie played bridge and Tessa visited only when it was convenient. Dad's words echo in my head. "You've always been the strong one, Gianna." I made an unspoken promise to hold our family together after his death. I just hadn't expected to be fighting for survival quite so literally. "Come on, Lily," I say softly, turning away from the door. "Let's get our things." We walk back into the rain toward the soggy boxes on the curb. Lily's shoulders are shaking, but she doesn't cry. She's her mother's daughter. I pop the trunk of my Honda CR-V and start gathering what I can salvage. Books with warped pages, photo albums where colors bleed together like watercolors, Lily's science fair ribbon, the ink running down the fabric. Marjorie steps onto the porch watching us. "Your father spoiled you," she calls out. This was always my house. I notice the neighbors watching, Mrs. Donovan with her hand over her mouth, the Fishers whispering behind their curtains. I walk back to the door one last time, rain streaming down my face. "We'll be at the Residence Inn on 5th, I say calmly. "Forward our mail." Lily tugs at my soaked scrub top. "But Grandpa's books are still inside," she whispers, her voice breaking for the first time. I squeeze her hand and look directly into Marjorie's eyes. "Trust me, honey," I murmur. "This isn't over." Something flickers across my mother's face. Surprise, maybe, at not finding the doormat she's used to walking over. Tessa refills her wine glass, but her hand isn't quite steady. As we drive away, I catch one last glimpse of Marjorie in the rearview mirror, still standing on the porch. I finally see what's always been there. Not maternal love, but resentment. Resentment of the bond I shared with my father. A bond she never had. Rain drums softly on the roof of the car beside me. Lily cradles Oscar's carrier ahead of us. Uncertainty lingers, but for the first time in 2 years, something unexpected unfurls in my chest. It feels strangely like freedom. The residence room looks like a hurricane aftermath. The next morning, soggy cardboard boxes form small islands across the beige carpet. Lily's school uniform hangs over the shower rod, still dripping. Oscar huddles beneath the desk, his orange fur matted and damp, refusing to come out. I've laid out every salvaged possession like artifacts in an archaeological dig, cataloging what survived the rain and what didn't. My nursing textbooks, their pages warped. Lily's science project notes bleeding into illegibility. A family photo where my father's face has blurred into a watercolor ghost. When I call Michael Porter's office, a crisp voice answers on the 4th ring. "This is Gianna Reynolds," I say, pressing the phone to my ear. "I need to speak with Michael immediately. It's about my father's estate." "I'm sorry, Miss Reynolds, but Mr. Porter is in court today." "Then please tell him it's Peter Reynolds' daughter, and that Marjorie has locked us out of the house." Silence stretches before the receptionist replies, "Hold, please." Moments later, Michael's voice comes through, breathless. "Gianna, what's happening?" I explain the situation in the same detached tone I use when reporting patient conditions. Locked doors, changed locks, possessions ruined in the rain. Facts without emotion. "That's impossible," Michael interrupts. "Gianna, your father transferred the house to you, and Lily, in trust. 6 months ago." The room tilts sideways. "What?" "Peter put the house in a trust for you and Lily. Marjorie has no legal right to be there, let alone lock you out." I sink onto the edge of the bed, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me. "Why wouldn't he tell me?" "There's a letter with the documents," Michael says quietly. "He asked me not to mention it until it became necessary." Lily emerges from the bathroom, her hair wrapped in a hotel towel. She watches me with eyes too old for her 12 years. "I'm coming to your office," I tell Michael. An hour later, I'm staring at legal documents spread across his mahogany desk. Property transfer forms, trust agreements, all signed, notarized, and filed with the county. Your father was very thorough, Michael says, sliding a sealed envelope toward me. He wanted you to have this, if something like this ever happened. The envelope bears my name and my father's familiar doctor's scrawl. I break the seal and unfold a single page. My dearest Gianna, if you're reading this, then Marjorie has done exactly what I feared she would. The house now belongs to you and Lily. It always did in my heart. Marjorie never truly appreciated what she had. Not the home, not you, and certainly not me. I've watched her resentment grow over the years, especially toward you. You came back when I needed you most, sacrificing everything. You've always been the one who carries others, even when your own shoulders are breaking. Take care of our girl, and the home will take care of you both. All my love, Dad. A single tear lands on the signature, blurring the ink like rain on cardboard. Your father knew this might happen, Michael says quietly. We have everything we need for an emergency injunction. Marjorie and Tessa are there illegally. My phone buzzes. A text from our neighbor, Karen Westfield. They're rearranging furniture and painting your bedroom. Tessa's SUV has been going back and forth all day. She's moved in completely. I show Michael the text. Within 24 hours of locking us out, I say. His mouth tightens. This was planned well in advance. I nod, the nurse in me demanding a full assessment before treatment. I need to understand what we're really up against. What can they even do? Marjorie's my mother, I say. She'll use that, Michael replies. She'll claim you abandoned your father. That you're an unfit mother to Lily. He hesitates. Tessa called me this morning. Said she's concerned about your mental health since your father's death. That you've been erratic. Erratic. I repeat, heat rising in my chest, he adds quietly. Ray's already talking about converting your father's study for the twins. Another text from Karen buzzes through. The boys are jumping on Lily's bed. I can see them through the window. Something shifts inside me. I rise and walk to the window overlooking downtown Austin. My hospital ID badge hangs from my neck, the laminated photo of a woman in scrubs ready to save lives. I catch my reflection in the glass, eyes hard as river stones, jaw set like steel. I save strangers every day, I whisper. It's time I saved us. Behind me, Lily looks up from the box she's sorting, watching with cautious hope, like someone witnessing the first sprout pushing through scorched earth. This isn't about revenge, I tell Michael, turning back to the desk. It's about justice. 3 decisions form in rapid succession, the way I triage patients during a mass casualty. I'm calling in sick for the next 3 days. I need to build our case. Michael nods, already pulling out forms. I'll file for emergency possession. Your father knew this might happen, Jonna. He left everything prepared. Back at the hotel, I find Dr. Sarah Williams waiting in the lobby with 2 suitcases. Clean scrubs, clothes for both of you, she says simply. And real shampoo instead of those tiny hotel bottles. I haven't cried since finding my father's body 2 weeks ago, but Sarah's kindness nearly breaks me. Lily's teacher, Miss Bennett, arrives an hour later with schoolwork and a quiet strength that reminds me of my father. Lily's one of our strongest students, she tells me softly, and I've documented everything she said about the situation, for your records. By evening, the hotel room has transformed from disaster zone to command center. Michael has arranged a meeting with the bank manager, who confirms the trust details and offers a temporary credit line against the home's equity. Your father's foresight was remarkable, the manager says. The trust is ironclad. The phone rings again, a number I don't recognize. Gianna. It's Eleanor, my mother's younger sister, whom I haven't spoken to in years. Eleanor, I say carefully, I know what Marjorie's done, she says, her voice tight with anger. She's been planning this since Peter's diagnosis. She told me at Christmas she was going to reclaim her life once he was gone. Why are you telling me this? Because what she's doing is wrong, Eleanor says simply. And because Tessa's already listed some of your father's medical equipment on Facebook Marketplace. By midnight, I have screenshots. The emergency court filing is submitted. My savings account is nearly depleted from the legal retainer, but for the first time in days, I feel something close to hope. Lily sits on the edge of the hotel bed, stroking Oscar, who has finally emerged from under the desk. I miss Mittens, she says quietly, her second cat still trapped in the house. We'll get her back, I promise. And Grandpa's books. Everything, Mom. Everything. I promise again. She studies my face with that penetrating gaze she inherited from my father. Mom? Yes? The hardest person to stand up to is your mother. She repeats the line from a book we read last summer, but it carries the weight of ancient wisdom now. I sit beside her, drawing her close. Yes, but not as hard as letting her hurt you. My phone lights up with a text from Michael. The law is unquestionably on your side. Outside rain taps against the window, gentler now. Not washing things away, but cleansing them. Making them new. Marjorie's Facebook post appears on my phone at 3:17 a.m., a week later. I'm awake anyway, staring at the ceiling, listening to Lily's gentle breathing from the next bed. Please pray for our family during this difficult time. Gianna has chosen to abandon the family home where she was raised. Some grief manifests as rebellion, even in adults. Your support means everything. 27 sympathetic comments already. Hearts and prayer hands from church members who've known me since childhood. I set the phone down without replying. Documentation, not reaction. That's what Michael had emphasized yesterday. Mom? Lily's voice came softly from the darkness. You okay? Just checking messages, honey. Go back to sleep. I can't. Mrs. Peterson sent me a weird text. Tessa told her mom I might not be at school because of your mental health issues. The words hit like ice water. Tessa had started spinning stories at Lily's school. By morning, the wolves were circling. Aunt Catherine called while I was in the shower. Uncle Robert during breakfast. Cousin Jennifer on the drive to Michael's office. All of them concerned about my erratic behavior since Dad's death. They're creating a narrative, Michael said, spreading documents across his desk. Marjorie's refusing certified letters. 3 attempts already, I nodded, flipping open my notebook. Tessa's husband, Ray, followed me into the hospital parking garage last night. Said I was making things harder than they need to be. Michael's eyebrows shot up. Anyone witness this? Security cameras would have. I've already requested the footage. A small smile tugged at his mouth. You're getting good at this. The wall calendar behind him showed today's date circled in red, 1 week since the lockout. 1 week since everything changed. My nurses are documenting every minute I spent at the hospital caring for Dad, I said, tapping my pen against the notebook. Dr. Nichols is preparing a statement about Dad's mental competency when he made the trust changes. The sheriff's office confirmed they'll enforce any court order we receive. Michael nodded. And I spoke with hospital administration this morning. They're offering full support. Something unfamiliar flickered in my chest. Not the panic of that first night, not the disbelief of learning Dad had transferred the house to me. Something steadier, calmer. I need my daughter's birth certificate, I said. And Dad's medical files. They're in the filing cabinet in his study. Michael's pen paused mid-note. We can request duplicates through I want the originals. Today. 40 minutes later, I parked 3 houses down from what was legally my home. The cruiser I'd arranged sat quietly at the corner, Officer Banks giving me a subtle nod. The walkway to the front door felt both familiar and foreign. 7 days ago, I'd stood here soaked to the skin, watching my life unravel. Today, my footsteps sounded different on the concrete. Marjorie answered on the 3rd knock, her face freezing mid-smile as she registered who stood before her. You're not welcome here, she said, hand gripping the door's edge. I pressed record on my phone, holding it visibly. I'm legally requesting my daughter's birth certificate and my father's medical records. Tessa appeared behind her, color rising in her cheeks. We'll call the police if you don't leave. I've already notified them I'd be here. I nodded toward Officer Banks, who'd stepped out of his cruiser. This is a documented request for my legal property. Marjorie's eyes welled with tears, a familiar tactic that had worked on me countless times before. After everything I've done for you, when the tears didn't move me, something shifted in her expression. The sadness hardened into something sharper, more dangerous. You think you can take what's mine? Her voice cut like glass. Your father never appreciated me either. Across the street, Mrs. Daniels watered her flower beds, pretending not to listen. Mr. Wilson slowed his walk, his dog pausing conveniently near our driveway. The filing cabinet in Dad's study, I repeated. I'll wait here while you bring the documents. 10 minutes later, I walked back to my car with a manila envelope in hand. Inside were the original birth certificate and a folder containing Dad's medical history. Small victories, but necessary ones. The next morning, Dr. Williams met me in the hospital cafeteria before my shift. I've completed my statement about your father's care, she said, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. 2 years of watching you run yourself ragged, caring for him while working full-time. No jury would ever question your dedication. That afternoon, Mrs. Bennett, Lily's teacher, called. I've documented Lily's relationship with her grandfather, she said. How he attended every school function when you were working, and how she read to him daily during his illness. By evening, Michael had filed an emergency possession order with 17 signed affidavits. Eleanor called soon after. When I arrived at his office, he said, Marjorie's been photographing family heirlooms for an estate sale website. My jaw tightened. Dad's collection, Grandma's silver, the antique furniture from the library. The hospital chaplain, Father Morgan, had also left a message. He'd provided a character witness statement about my visits with Dad, the prayers we'd shared, the family Bible I brought to his bedside. People were choosing sides, though not the ones Marjorie had expected. Thursday brought the shift I'd been waiting for. The judge reviewed our case and expedited the hearing date. I want to deliver this personally, Michael said, holding up the notice of eviction. His eyes gleamed with something between mischief and justice. I sat in my car across the street, watching as Michael approached the front door in his crisp suit. Marjorie answered, accepting the certified letter with visible reluctance. Through the windshield, I watched her face as she read the opening lines. The paper trembled in her hands when she reached the declaration. Property owner Gianna Reynolds Tesla appeared in the doorway, phone pressed to her ear, lips moving rapidly as she called their attorney. Marjorie didn't move, still clutching the letter, as Michael walked back to his car. For the first time since this began, I saw something in my mother's expression besides manipulation. Understanding. The realization that I wasn't backing down. That evening, Michael spread our documentation across his conference table like a general mapping a battlefield. Court affidavits from 3 of Dad's doctors confirming his mental competency, trust documents with ownership transfer timelines highlighted, and the photographs I'd taken of our belongings left on the curb. Rainwater seeps through the cardboard. Lily shivers under the porch light. The calendar is particularly powerful, Michael said, pointing to the color-coded schedule. I'd maintained green for Dad's appointments, blue for medication changes, red for emergency room visits. 2 years of caretaking, condensed into 12 meticulous pages. And these, he added, tapping the financial records showing every mortgage payment I'd made. Every utility bill I'd covered while Marjorie spent her widow's pension on bridge club dues and weekend trips to Galveston. The law doesn't care about feelings, Michael said, gathering the papers into a leather portfolio. It cares about facts. My phone buzzed as I pulled into the hotel parking lot that evening. A text from Michael. Court date moved up. Tomorrow. 9 a.m., Lily sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, Oscar purring in her lap. When I told her what happens if we lose, Mom, her voice sounded so small, nothing like the confident 12-year-old who'd aced her science presentation last month. I sat beside her, running my hand over Oscar's soft fur. We won't, I said. Your grandfather made sure of that. Later, after Lily fell asleep, I opened the folder I hadn't shown Michael. Inside was a handwritten letter from Dad to the judge, dated 3 weeks before his death, explaining why he'd transferred the house to me instead of his wife of 40 years. His elegant doctor's handwriting filled 3 pages with truths Marjorie never wanted exposed. Tomorrow, the final battle. But tonight, for the first time since the rain-soaked lockout, I slept without waking. The courthouse gleamed like a fortress in the morning sun. As I adjusted my blazer, no scrubs today. Today I wasn't Gianna the nurse. I was Gianna, the plaintiff, fighting for what was rightfully mine. Lily stood beside me, posture straight despite her trembling hand in mine. "Ready?" Michael Porter asked, briefcase bulging with our ammunition. I nodded. We'd prepared for this. Inside, the polished floors reflected our determined faces. Courtroom B smelled of furniture polish and nervous sweat. I scanned the room and froze. Marjorie and Tessa were already seated, heads bent in conspiratorial whispers. My mother looked up, her practiced smile faltering when she saw the calm in my eyes. No hysteria, no begging, just quiet certainty. Michael began arranging documents on our table. The judge assigned to our case was known to be thorough. She'd appreciate our attention to detail. "Will they make me talk?" Lily whispered, eyes fixed on Tessa's twin boys slouching in the back row. "Only if you want to," I told her, though Michael had prepared her just in case. Judge Harriet Caldwell entered, silver hair pulled back severely, eyes missing nothing. "Reynolds family trust dispute. Temporary possession hearing," she announced, settling into her chair. Michael rose first, presenting the leather portfolio. "Your Honor, we've prepared a complete timeline documenting Dr. Peter Reynolds' decisions regarding his property." He unfolded a chart. Dates, signatures, witness statements, irrefutable evidence of my father's intentions. We have affidavits from 3 separate physicians confirming Dr. Reynolds was of sound mind when he transferred property ownership. Michael continues placing documents before the judge. Medical records from his oncologist, neurologist, and primary care physician of over 2 decades. He then pulls out financial statements showing Mrs. Marjorie Reynolds' minimal contributions to household expenses, while Miss Gianna Reynolds covered property taxes and maintenance costs alongside her father. I notice Marjorie's attorney shifting uncomfortably. Tessa's face darkens with every new document Michael presents. Additionally, Michael says, tapping his tablet, we have a video deposition from attorney James Wilson, who prepared the original trust documents. The courtroom screen flickers to life. My father's attorney appears, gray, dignified, composed. Dr. Reynolds was explicit in his wishes, he says. The property was to transfer to his daughter Gianna and granddaughter Lily's trust upon his death. He expressed concerns that Mrs. Reynolds might attempt to circumvent his intentions. Marjorie's gasp echoes across the room. Our final witness, Michael continues, Miss Patricia Hendricks, Lily's school counselor. A woman of unshakable professionalism takes the stand. Lily has exhibited significant distress since being forcibly removed from her home, she testifies. She's experienced nightmares, anxiety, and a noticeable decline in academic performance. The stability of her home environment was critical following her grandfather's death. I squeeze Lily's hand under the table. She stares straight ahead, chin lifted, just like my father's when he faced a difficult diagnosis. The judge nods. Let's hear from the respondent. Marjorie's attorney, Gordon Shaw, rises, expensive suit, artificial smile. Your Honor, this entire situation stems from a tragic misunderstanding. Mrs. Reynolds fully intended to allow her daughter and granddaughter to remain in the house temporarily. Marjorie produces a handkerchief, dabbing at invisible tears. I cared for my husband throughout his illness, she claims, her voice quavering perfectly. Throughout our marriage, I tended to his every need. Gianna was rarely home, always at the hospital. My fingers curl into my palm, nails biting flesh. A lie so blatant it steals my breath. Tessa steps forward next, holding up photographs. Here's our family at Christmas. she says. Images of forced smiles. And here's Mom helping Dad with his medication. One carefully curated moment caught on camera, ignoring the 100 times I found his pills untouched after returning from shifts. Character witnesses from our church file forward, people who'd visited for an hour on Sundays. Gianna was rarely present for church functions, Mrs. Patterson says, avoiding my eyes. Marjorie was always there, asking for prayers for her husband, praying publicly, neglecting him privately. The lockout was unfortunate, Shaw concludes, but necessary. Tough love. Gianna has become increasingly dependent at her age. Judge Caldwell's expression remains unreadable as she makes notes. For one terrible moment, I see doubt in her eyes. My turn comes. I rise slowly, drawing on every ounce of composure I've honed in emergency rooms. Your Honor, I begin, steady but firm. I moved home 2 years ago specifically to care for my father during his illness. I begin, my voice steady. I coordinated my hospital shifts around his care needs. Michael presents my work schedules alongside my father's treatment calendars, showing how I'd arranged everything to be home when he needed me most. The courtroom door opens. A familiar figure slips in, Marjorie's sister, Eleanor, whom I haven't seen since the funeral. Marjorie's face contorts in surprise. Miss Eleanor Blackwell has requested to provide testimony, Michael announces. Eleanor walks forward composed. I visited my brother-in-law weekly during his illness, she states firmly. On numerous occasions, I found him alone while my sister was at social engagements. It was Gianna who adjusted his medications, prepared his meals, and ensured his comfort. Marjorie half rises, but her attorney quickly pulls her back down. Michael produces a sealed envelope. Your Honor, Dr. Reynolds anticipated potential disputes. He prepared this letter to be presented to the court if necessary. The judge breaks the seal. As she reads silently, her eyebrows rise. Mom? Lily's small voice breaks the tension. Can I say something? Judge Caldwell softens. Come forward, young lady. Lily walks to the stand, her school uniform immaculate. My grandfather taught me chess in his study every Sunday afternoon, she begins. Even when he was really sick. He told me the house would always be there for Mom and me, that he'd made sure of it. He said Grandma didn't appreciate what she had. Tears sting my eyes, but I blink them back. Dignity, not drama, will win this fight. I just want to go home, Lily finishes simply. I could launch into details about Marjorie's neglect, but instead I say, the documented evidence speaks for itself. Your Honor, Marjorie suddenly stands. She manipulated her dying father, she shouts, pointing at me. Mrs. Reynolds, control yourself, Judge Caldwell warns. Peter wasn't thinking clearly. Is that your argument? During recess, Michael steps into the hallway. Tessa's husband, Ray, follows. A security camera captures Ray's threatening whisper, "You'll regret taking this case." Back in session, Marjorie's attorney challenges the trust documents, but his argument backfires when it's revealed they'd known about the trust for months. Their signatures are already on file. Mrs. Reynolds, these medical records indicate you attended only 3 of your husband's 27 oncology appointments, Judge Caldwell notes. Is that correct? Marjorie fumbles for an explanation. Tessa leans toward her attorney, whispering urgently. I catch fragments. Already spoke with the agent about listing. The judge's head snaps up. What agent would that be, Mrs. Peterson? Tessa blanches, realizing her mistake. A reporter sits in the back row. During the next break, Marjorie approaches him, hissing, My ungrateful daughter abandoned her father and now wants to steal my home. My colleagues from Austin General file into the courtroom, a silent wall of support. Judge Caldwell closes her folder with finality. I am granting temporary possession of the property to Gianna Reynolds and Lily Reynolds. Effective immediately, the Sheriff's Department will escort Mrs. Marjorie Reynolds and Mrs. Tessa Peterson from the property. Marjorie collapses back into her chair, her courtroom composure finally cracking. Her attorney approaches Michael. We should discuss settlement terms. I shake my head. We're past the point of negotiation. In the hallway, Tessa and Ray argue loudly. You said this would be easy, he snaps. Now where are we supposed to live? I lead Lily toward the exit. The sunlight outside feels different somehow. Cleaner, brighter. Is it over? Lily asks, looking up with cautious hope. Almost, I tell her, keys already in hand. We're going home. The phone rang at 7:15 a.m. I stared at the caller ID, my thumb hovering over the screen. Mother. 3 days before the final hearing. Gianna. Marjorie's voice quavered when I answered. I didn't sleep all night thinking about this situation. I said nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. I'm still your mother. Her voice broke. Family should come first. You know that's what your father would want. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl. Dad made his wishes very clear in the trust documents. People are talking, Gianna. The whole church is praying for reconciliation. The wobble in her voice hardened. Pastor Williams called yesterday. He reminded me that Christian forgiveness requires reconciliation. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. Uncle Robert. We need to find a compromise before Thursday. This is tearing the family apart. Tessa's boys are devastated, Marjorie continued. They've already moved their things into the upstairs bedrooms. Now they have to pack again. Those rooms never belonged to them, I said quietly. We could share the house, Marjorie pressed. You and Lily take the main bedroom and study. We'll take the guest room and den. Common areas can be… No. The word fell between us like a stone. You're being cruel, Gianna. Her voice sharpened. What happened to the daughter who nursed her father for 2 years? Who put everyone else first? She got locked out in the rain. I ended the call as another text arrived. Setting the phone face down on the counter, I noticed my hands trembling slightly. Mom? Lily stood in the doorway, Oscar winding around her legs. Was that Grandma again? Yes, honey, I forced a smile. Nothing important, Michael called an hour later. Marjorie's attorney filed a motion this morning, he said. They're requesting a mental health evaluation, claiming your grief has impaired your judgment. My stomach clenched. Can they do that? It's a delay tactic, Michael replied. But the hospital called me too. Someone filed an anonymous complaint questioning your professional stability. The words hit like physical blows. 2 years of night shifts while managing Dad's care, never missing a medication, documenting every treatment. The school principal left a message, I told him. Apparently, Tessa's been telling parents that Lily's not doing well in our temporary situation. I glanced toward Lily's room where she was quietly reading. Michael, am I being too harsh? Should I consider some kind of… No, Gianna, he cut in gently. Remember what your father wrote in his letter to the judge? Marjorie has never understood boundaries. Which is exactly why I've drawn this one so clearly. Stay the course, Gianna. Wednesday morning and the day before the final hearing, my phone rang just as I was packing Lily's lunch. Miss Reynolds, this is Janet from the clerk's office. We can't locate your documentation folder for tomorrow's hearing. Cold dread washed through me. What? All our evidence was submitted last week. It's not showing in the system. We'll need those documents by noon, or the judge may grant another continuance. I called Michael immediately. His assistant picked up. He's in court until 11. What's happening? She asked as I explained the situation, already racing toward the hotel desk for the backup flash drive. I saved copies of everything, I said. But we'll have to reprint all the affidavits and get them notarized again. I'll meet you at the office in 20 minutes, she promised. When I turned around, Lily stood there, backpack in hand. You're going to be late for school, I told her. Grandpa's tablet, she said suddenly. The blue one. He backed up all his papers to the cloud. The password's your birthday. 3 frantic hours later, Michael requested a delay as soon as he wrapped up his other case. The judge granted us exactly 90 minutes. We made it by 11, Michael exhaled, collapsing into a chair as the clerk stamped our reconstituted evidence folder. Someone deliberately misplaced our files. Just one more day, I whispered. Thursday morning dawned clear and cool. I stood by the mailbox at 9:27 a.m., watching the sheriff's department vehicles pull into the driveway. Two deputies in crisp uniforms approached the front door, another positioned near the garage. Michael stood beside me, legal briefcase in hand. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. I nodded, unable to speak. In the car, Lily clutched a framed photo of my father, her face solemn. The lead deputy knocked firmly. "Sheriff's Department." "Open the door, please," Tessa answered, her face flushed. "What's the meaning of this?" The deputy held up an official document. "I have a writ of possession to execute." "Are you Marjorie Reynolds?" "I'll get my mother," Tessa said, her voice tight. Moments later, Marjorie appeared, hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. "I need to see that order," she snapped. "I'm not letting strangers into my home. I'm required by law to read this aloud. You'll then have 20 minutes to collect essential personal belongings under supervision." As the deputy read the court order, Marjorie's eyes locked on mine across the lawn, pure hatred radiating from her expression. "You have 20 minutes, the deputy concluded. "Will accompany you to ensure only personal belongings are removed." I stayed by the mailbox as the deputies entered with Marjorie and Tessa. Michael activated the recording feature on his phone, documenting everything. Inside, Marjorie's voice rose in protest. "Those are family heirlooms. They belong to my husband's mother." "Ma'am," came the deputy's even tone, "we have an inventory list provided by the court. Those items are specifically listed as property of the trust." I closed my eyes, recalling the meticulous, room-by-room inventory I'd created before moving back. Every photograph, every book, every piece of silver signed by my father. A deputy stepped out carrying a cat carrier. "Found this little guy hiding under a bed. Looks a bit malnourished." Oscar's plaintive meow made my throat tighten. I took the carrier to Lily, who opened the door immediately, tears streaming down her cheeks. "He's so skinny, Mom," she whispered, gently stroking his fur through the grate. The minutes crawled by. Deputies carried out boxes of clothing and personal items, checking each one against the list. Then Marjorie's voice rose again, sharper this time, followed by Tessa's husband's deeper tones joining the argument. "Sir, step back now," came a deputy's firm command. "Threatening language will not be tolerated." 17 minutes later, Marjorie stepped onto the porch clutching her purse. Tessa followed, holding a small suitcase. "You'll regret this," Marjorie said, her voice carrying across the rain-soaked lawn. "When you need family most, remember this moment." I met her gaze steadily. "You already taught me how regret feels." Standing in the rain beside my daughter, the lead deputy approached with a clipboard. "Miss Reynolds, the formal transfer of possession is complete. However, several items are missing from the inventory. We've documented everything for your attorney." He handed me a ring of keys, house keys, garage keys, the physical symbols of what had always been rightfully mine. "Your father's medical equipment was improperly stored in the basement," the deputy added quietly. "Some damage appears deliberate. We photographed everything." Marjorie walked stiffly to her car without looking back. Tessa paused at the bottom of the driveway, something like recognition flickering across her face before she turned away. Ray glared at me from their SUV until a deputy deliberately approached his window. Two vehicles pulled away in opposite directions. Neighbors who had gathered on porches and behind curtains slowly dispersed. Witnesses to justice, not drama. My phone buzzed with incoming messages. "Uncle Robert, we had no idea things were this bad. Call if you need anything." "The security system's been reset with your code," Michael said, tucking his phone away. I filed for a restraining order as a precaution. Lily climbed out of the car, still holding her grandfather's photograph. She approached the porch steps slowly, as if unsure whether they might disappear beneath her feet. I stood in the doorway, keys in hand. Victory should have felt triumphant, but instead there was only a somber stillness, a home reclaimed. A boundary restored, and then Michael drove away. I noticed a white envelope in the mailbox, my mother's handwriting instantly recognizable. I slipped it into my pocket unopened. Some letters could wait for another day. The rain falls differently now. 6 months later, I stand at the kitchen window, watching droplets trail down the glass. Remembering that night when Lily and I stood drenched on the porch, locked out of our own lives. Dad's study remains untouched, a shrine of sorts. His medical journals still line the shelves. His reading glasses rest on the desk. The only addition is a small wooden plaque Lily made, Dr. Peter Reynolds Memorial Reading Room. Sometimes I sit in his chair, breathe in what's left of him, and read his journals. Not because I must, but because I want to. Lily's garden flourishes in the backyard despite the autumn chill, the peace project, she calls it. Rows of hardy mums and late-season vegetables, each plant tagged with her careful handwriting. She tends it daily with the same quiet dedication that once defined her grandfather. The promotion letter from Austin Memorial sits framed on my desk. Nursing Supervisor, Emergency Services. Dr. Williams insisted I accept it. Your father would be proud, she said, squeezing my hand. And you've earned it. I cried then. The first tears I'd allowed myself since the eviction. The new security system hums quietly in the background. 6 cameras, motion sensors, reinforced locks. Not from fear, but from a promise and to never again be vulnerable. Mom? Lily's voice floats from the front porch. Come watch the rain with me. I pour 2 mugs of chamomile tea and join her. We sit in matching rocking chairs just as we did on countless evenings with Dad before his illness took him. The rain falls steadily, turning the yard into a glistening canvas. It's raining just like that day, Lily says softly, fingers wrapped around her mug. She's grown taller these past months, her face losing some of its childish roundness. The trauma aged her, but healing has given her a quiet strength. Yes, I say, watching the water slide off the new porch roof. Same weather, different feeling. Lily rocks gently, her eyes following the rainfall. This is our home now, she says. Not a question, but a statement of hard-won truth. I reach across the space between us, squeezing her hand. It was always the rain that once symbolized our rejection. Now it sounds like a lullaby, nature's percussion accompanying our evening ritual. Later, I sit at my desk, journal open before me. Therapy. Homework? Technically, but it's become more than that. Tonight's prompt stares up at me. How has your definition of strength changed? My pen hovers, then begins to move. Strength isn't just endurance. For so long, I thought being strong meant carrying everyone's burdens, never complaining, always saying yes. I confuse sacrifice with love, but real strength knows when to draw lines, when to say no, when to protect what matters most. The hospital committee invitation sits unanswered beside my journal. 6 months ago, I would have accepted immediately, stretching myself thinner in the name of dedication. Now I see it differently. Time with Lily is not negotiable. Some boundaries aren't betrayal, they're preservation. I glance at the framed quote on my wall, Dad's handwriting as familiar as my own. Strength isn't carrying everything. It's knowing what to put down. Oscar, now healthy and plump, jumps onto the desk and settles on my journal, his purr vibrating against my hand. Another small victory. The cat who once cowered during those hotel weeks now sprawls with confident abandon. Last night, Lily slept through until morning. No nightmares. No anxious midnight calls. The first time since the lockout, I'd stood in her doorway at dawn, watching her peaceful breathing, feeling something tight inside me finally release. Dad's medical equipment, the hospital bed, the oxygen concentrator has found new purpose. The donation to Austin Community Clinic came with a single condition, a plaque honoring Dr. Peter Reynolds. Service transformed into legacy. Friday movie nights have become sacred. Just Lily and me on the sofa, bowls of popcorn balanced on our laps, Oscar wedged between us. The family we've chosen? Small but mighty. At the hospital last week, Jessica, a young nurse with haunted eyes, sought me out. My mother keeps taking my paycheck, she whispered. Says I owe her for raising me. I recognized the shame in her voice, that confusion of obligation twisted into exploitation. Let me share something I learned the hard way, I told her. Pulling out the Caregiver Rights Guide, 20 pages of resources, legal protections, and boundary scripts. The project that grew from our pain now helps others navigate their own. Lily's school presentation, What Makes a Home, won first place last month. Her teacher called it surprisingly mature. On the final slide, Lily had written, "A home isn't just walls and a roof. It's a place where you're safe to be yourself." The spare bedroom that once collected dust now hosts Sarah, a traveling nurse whose apartment flooded last week. The same colleague who stood beside us during those first desperate hotel nights, circles completing themselves. My phone chimes, a Facebook post from Tessa, showing her and Marjorie bickering over furniture at an estate sale. The comment section overflows with their public drama. I quietly blocked them both. Eleanor's message came yesterday. Tentative, hopeful. Maybe it's time for healing, she'd written. Family should find its way back together. My reply took hours to craft. Eleanor, I value your place in our lives. But reconciliation requires acknowledgement and change. Neither has happened. My door remains open to you, but my boundaries with Marjorie and Tessa are not negotiable. The unopened letter from Marjorie had sat in my desk drawer for months. I finally read it last night. 5 pages of justification, selective memories, and quiet blame. No apology. I filed it away without response, choosing peace over the exhaustion of engagement. The rain intensifies as evening deepens. Lily brings her watercolors to the porch, painting the glistening yard in blues and purples. I watch her work, struck by how confidently her fingers move across the page. Wind stirs the chimes hanging from the eave, the ones Lily and I made from Dad's old medical alert tags. They catch the porch light, scattering gentle notes into the damp air. Some storms wash things away, I say, watching raindrops catch in her hair. Others help things grow. Lily looks up, brush poised mid-stroke. I like this storm better, she says softly. The security light flickers on as dusk settles, illuminating the handmade sign at the end of our driveway. Reynolds Residence. Not a declaration of ownership, but of presence, of persistence. Have you ever had to choose between family, peace, and your own well-being? What boundaries did you need to set to protect what matters most?